We have an email question from Wayne in Santa Fe, New Mexico. What do you miss most about Elvis?
Oh my gosh, what is there not to miss? Elvis epitomized charm, charisma, but I think his laughter. Elvis had the most contagious laughter. He just, once he started laughing, that was it. Everyone would start laughing, and sometimes it was uncontrollable. He couldn't stop, and he laughed over the silliest things. You know, he just had a great sense of humor. Loved to have fun, loved to play games.
You still love him?
Well, of course. I mean, he was a hard person not to love.
Did you love him the day you divorced him?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We didn't get divorced because I didn't love him. You know, sometimes people go apart. And more in different lifestyles. It was a lifestyle that was very difficult to live for a woman. Very difficult. It wasn't because I didn't care or I didn't love him. If anything, I did love him more than I can even imagine. But that was a very difficult decision. But he was always in my life, and it wasn't as if we were divorced at all.
Did you watch him work a lot?
I did. I watched him.
When you were married, I mean, go to Vegas and...
I did. I went to Vegas. I went to the shows. But when Elvis worked...
And he worked hard.
He worked very hard. Elvis had so much to give, you know, not only talent, but his passion, his compassion, his generosity. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like it again, you know, and it's growing. Arrangements were made to go on, I think, like on a Friday night. It took me by surprise how very normal he was. There were a couple of girls there and some guys, and I looked over and, you know, Elvis was sitting in a chair, and he was breathtaking. I mean, he was truly, you know, much more handsome in life than even on the screen, which is hard to believe. And I was introduced to him, and he got up, and he said, well, what do we have here, you know? And the first thing he did was start teasing me about my nose. I already felt very much like a child there. Everyone was in their 20s, and I never expected him to ask me back.
But then the next thing I know, Elvis called. And he wanted to see Sullivan. And we were arguing back and forth. Once we met Elvis, he was so polite and so charming. I mean, it was just like he was, everything was sir and ma'am and all that. It was very, very frank.
Just the way I was brought up, you know, my surroundings, my mother and my father, and I'm proud of the way that I was brought up to believe and to treat people. And I've always treated people just like I would like to be treated.
He was a good old Southern boy, and that was the attraction.
Well, he impressed me because he seemed like a genuine person that was really concerned about a lot of things.
I guess you would wonder, what would a 24-year-old guy have in common with a 14-year-old girl? Now, knowing Elvis, it all kind of fits in place, you know, and why, you know, I was a girl who spoke English. We had a lot in common. Actually, it was our second date, and I told him how much I liked Mario Lanza, you know, that I played, you know, the student prince over and over and over again. I got into his life, and never thinking that Elvis was an opera lover, ever. So it's just funny how we kind of like, we had something in common other than rock and roll. I feel very fortunate that I got to know him during that time, and I'm sure...
Fear or no fear, he was going to ride everything, do everything that was dangerous, and just have a ball, whether anybody liked it or not.
And he had that kind of personality, very magnetic.
I mean, he was tough.
I like the rugged sports as a man, whether it's boxing. I like motorcycle riding. I do a little lost kid.
Play football.
I would say right now, the thing I keep up with most is professional football. And I've got a touch league, you know, a touch football league back home.
There was no fooling around. The guys really challenged each other. And of course, he won every one of them.
He loved to win. We were all lucky, actually, to hang out with Elvis. His personality was just wonderful. I mean, it was so huge. Endless, actually. He loved doing lots of things.
He had a great time. You know, he rode as soon as he got up in the morning or in the afternoon, had his breakfast, he was out riding. And he put on a show for all the fans. You know, he'd take his horse, run down to the end of the field, and then race the horses back up again.
I mean, we had become cowboys, kind of.
He turned the barn into an actual working barn. I mean, I've never seen him so happy. He was painting names on the stalls, on the gear, on all that. He had a tack room. He put everything in the tack room. He had all the saddles named and color coordinated. I mean, that's probably the most organized he ever was.
Everyone would have horses and golf carts. One person would get on, and then everyone would get on, and then it would be like, like a convoy of golf carts. It was always crazy.
So we're trying to keep up with him. And it's kind of hard to do because he could be pretty wild.
I also led the convoy when I got old enough to hit the pedal. The roller coaster would go up to the highest point, and then he would get out of it and make everybody panic, thinking that he fell off. He would be sitting somewhere on the roller coaster.
He would jump off before we'd come back down.
And I always say there was a very different side to Elvis that even the boys didn't know. He had to be behind closed doors. And I think the thing that was so endearing about him is that he was like a child. He was like a little boy. He brought the mother out in you. You wanted to mother him. And yet, he was a little boy, and he could make you feel like a child. We had this wonderful baby talk that he grew up with. And we would be in our own world, totally in our own world. Again, this is away from everybody. And I think that brings so much out of a woman when a man can become that vulnerable and let all of his defenses down. And very few people really got to see Elvis that way. And those are the times that I probably remember the most and was a wonderful emotional attachment or bonding with him. And you couldn't help but fall in love with him. Because those moments alone with him were just priceless. And it was around Christmas. And Elvis was really excited that night and very enthusiastic, and I thought that it was basically because he always loved giving gifts, and it was a really happy time. And he had something behind his back he wouldn't let me see. He goes, "Okay, I want you to close your eyes." And he got on his knees and he says, "I want you to open this." And then I opened up the box, and it was this beautiful engagement ring and wedding band and a ring with diamonds all over. And I was absolutely shocked. It's time for us to get married, he said, and it was like just sweetness all over. And we hugged, and when I came down, he was showing my hand to everybody. And he was just thrilled and really happy. And that's when we made our announcement that night. Oh, sweet Lord, that you will be here and now. We were happy to be married. We were most happy that we pulled it off. We were happy that our friends and family were here. We came to the house. He picks me up. He carries me over the threshold. He sings Blue Hawaii. It was quite romantic, but you also have to remember the guys were all coming in the back door at the same time.
We see that Elvis is picking Priscilla up, so we know it's the threshold thing. So we all just kind of went around to the back of the house and went into the back entrance. And actually, we came around and saw him bringing her in the front door. So one of the big jokes was, when I got married, I didn't just marry Elvis, I married all the guys. Well, I guess Priscilla did marry us all. Elvis loved the company of the guys, and I didn't mind it. It was just not all the time. I would have loved to have had that fantasy of being able to, have my husband just for me and spend a lot of time with him. There were times that you wanted to be alone and enjoy a normal relationship. Did I think that was ever going to happen? Not really, but I certainly wanted to seize the opportunities when I could. He was really actually a good husband.
I guess the most wonderful part is that I get such a thrill out of it till I wear myself completely out.
Elvis wasn't an ordinary man. He brought a lot with him. It couldn't just be a normal marriage or a normal relationship. There was a lot that you had to accept to be married to Elvis Presley. Yearning for love. I realized I was getting ready to deliver. I'm in absolute panic. Elvis was very calm. Someone tells him, Elvis, we need to get going. She's in the car. She's going to start delivering. He calmly walks out, puts a cigar in his mouth, like we had all day. He was so calm and proud. He was in the waiting room passing out cigars to nurses.
He just automatically was a natural father. He's carrying the baby like he's done this all the time. He was the happiest I ever saw him.
Elvis loved having a family.
Elvis always wanted his family around him to be here and enjoy everything with him.
Family was really what he thrived off of.
The happiest times I've ever had have been with my family. We all have fun together. We sit around and watch television, go to movies, go for drives on Sunday afternoons.
He was a very good father and a very good husband.
He surprised me being a dad. He really did. For someone who really wasn't around children that much, he adored children. He was playful. He could talk baby talk. And could really get on that level of a child.
He was like a really big kid.
He was. If it wasn't me, running the golf cart through a tree or through the forest or through a fence, it was my father.
There's this hill right in front of Graceland itself, and he would take us on joy rides on that thing.
Lisa could talk to her dad like nobody else. She could kid him as a little girl, Sometimes we hear the fans outside, and they'd be going, Elvis. So Lisa would look up her dad, go, Elvis. He said, don't call your father Elvis. And she would keep doing it. Then he'd start laughing.
I knew that he was crazy about me. He was very protective, very adoring, and very watchful.
The relationship between her and her father was really magical. They were exciting together.
He adored her, and he adored having a child.
The only person who could get me in the bathtub was my father. He's the one that would have to actually put me in and make me. I wouldn't argue with him, ever.
I can't ever imagine him saying he would have a divorce. It just wasn't a part of him. I think that he always felt we'd be together. At night before we'd go to bed, he would, in his wonderful way of talking, he would say, best at our little family. You, me, and Yisa. Having that security of a family meant everything to him. More so than I ever realized. When I left, I didn't realize that, how much that meant, because I thought he could survive well.
I don't think there was ever a question, was there still love between Elvis and Priscilla?
One of the impressive photographs that were taken when they left the courthouse in Santa Monica, here are two people getting a divorce, and they leave hand in hand. I think that speaks well for what they felt towards one another.
There are so many things to admire in my father, Elvis Presley. He rose from humble beginnings, and when the realization of his dreams and aspirations exceeded all that he had imagined, it gave hope to others, a new awareness of their own potential, whatever the challenges they may be facing. With his success came the accolades and respect that he deserved. However, the fame also brought with it a harsh kind of scrutiny and judgment that no one should ever have to experience. The truth of his artistry and character always rose above this. It always will. His place in our musical and cultural history in so many hearts will always be secure. One of the very special aspects of the character of Elvis Presley was his generosity of spirit. He expressed it with benefit concerts and charitable donations that were well known by the public. But most of what he did was done without publicity. My father never once forgot what it was like to want, to need, to do without. He spent most of his life bringing happiness to others, endlessly giving to those around him. It is one of the things that I admire most about him.